Books, in their earliest form, were not bound pages or printed paper. They were physical records of information, carved, pressed, or written onto durable materials designed to last. The earliest known written records date back to around 2500 BCE in Mesopotamia, where the Sumerians developed cuneiform writing. These were inscribed into clay tablets using reed styluses. The purpose was initially administrative, tracking trade, inventory, and legal agreements, but over time, written language expanded into literature. One of the earliest recorded literary works is the Epic of Gilgamesh, compiled from multiple tablets. It represents one of the first known examples of structured storytelling, with themes that persisted across later literary traditions. In ancient Egypt, writing evolved into a more flexible and transportable system using papyrus. Papyrus was made from the pith of the papyrus plant, cut into strips, layered, and pressed into sheets. These sheets were then joined into scrolls. Egyptian scribes used reed pens and carbon-based inks to write hieroglyphic or hieratic script. These scrolls were stored in temples and early libraries and often recorded religious texts like the Book of the Dead, administrative records, and instructional writings. Scrolls became the dominant format across Egypt, Greece, and Rome. They were typically read horizontally and stored rolled. However, scrolls had limitations. They were difficult to navigate quickly and fragile over long use. By the early centuries CE, the codex format began to replace scrolls. A codex is essentially what we recognize as a modern book, pages bound along one edge. This format allowed for easier reference, durability, and compact storage. Early codices were often made from parchment or vellum, derived from animal skin. During the medieval period, book production was controlled primarily by religious institutions. Monks in scriptoria manually copied texts, often decorating them with intricate illustrations known as illuminations. One of the most famous examples is the Book of Kells, created around the 9th century. This manual copying process severely limited the number of books in existence. A single manuscript could take months or years to complete, and errors were common due to human transcription. A major shift occurred in the 15th century with the invention of the movable type printing press by Johannes Gutenberg. Around 1455, Gutenberg produced the Gutenberg Bible, one of the first large-scale printed books in Europe. The printing press introduced several key innovations: reusable metal type, oil-based ink, and a press mechanism adapted from wine presses. This allowed for rapid and consistent reproduction of text. The result was a dramatic increase in book production. By 1500, it is estimated that over 20 million volumes had been printed in Europe alone. This period, known as the incunabula era, marked the beginning of mass literacy and the spread of standardized knowledge. At the same time, printing technologies were developing independently in Asia. In China, woodblock printing had been used as early as the Tang dynasty, and by the 11th century, Bai Sheng developed an early form of movable type using clay. Chinese printed texts included Confucian classics, medical texts, historical records, and literary works that shaped civil service exams and governance for centuries. Estimating the total number of books in existence is complex, but a widely referenced figure comes from Google, which estimated in 2010 that approximately 129 million unique book titles had been published globally. That number has grown rapidly with digital publishing, self-publishing platforms, and global literacy expansion. Book banning has been a consistent phenomenon throughout history. The reasons for banning books generally fall into three categories: political control, religious enforcement, and social or moral regulation. One of the earliest organized systems of censorship was the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, established by the Roman Catholic Church in 1559. This list identified books considered heretical or morally dangerous and remained active until 1966. In the 20th century, censorship intensified under authoritarian regimes. During the Nazi book burnings, thousands of books were destroyed in coordinated public burnings. These included works by Jewish intellectuals, political dissidents, and modernist thinkers. In the Soviet Union, strict censorship systems controlled what could be published. Writers such as Alexander Solzhenitsyn were banned, and their works circulated secretly through underground reproduction networks. Modern examples of banned or challenged books include 1984, To Kill a Mockingbird, and The Catcher in the Rye. These are often restricted in schools due to political themes, language, or depictions of societal issues. The most widely produced and distributed book in history is the Bible, with over 5 billion copies. It has been translated into more languages than any other book and has influenced law, philosophy, and culture globally. The second most distributed book is Quotations from Chairman Mao Zedong, widely circulated during China's Cultural Revolution. The best-selling copyrighted book is Don Quixote, written in the early 17th century, often considered the first modern novel due to its narrative complexity and character-driven storytelling. Books evolved into multiple formats and genres over time, including comics and manga. The modern comic book format began in the United States in the 1930s. Action Comics No. 1 introduced Superman, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. This marked the beginning of the superhero genre. The highest-selling single comic issue is X-Men No. 1, 1991, with over 8 million copies. Over time, comics expanded into graphic novels, addressing more complex themes and reaching broader audiences. In Japan, manga developed from earlier visual storytelling traditions like emakimono scrolls. These scrolls combined sequential art and text, laying the groundwork for modern panel-based storytelling. Modern manga was transformed by Osamu Tezuka in the mid-20th century. His cinematic approach to paneling and pacing influenced generations of artists. By the 1980s, manga had become a dominant part of Japanese publishing, with weekly magazines selling millions of copies. The best-selling manga series is One Piece by Eiichiro Oda, exceeding 500 million copies globally. In China, literature developed through a combination of oral storytelling, philosophy, and written tradition. One of the most influential works is Journey to the West, written by Wu Chengyin, featuring Sun Wukong. This story blends mythology, religion, and folklore and remains foundational in East Asian culture. Children's literature developed as a major category much later, particularly in the 19th and 20th centuries as education systems expanded. Early children's books were often moral or instructional. Over time, they became more imaginative and entertainment-focused. Examples include If You Give a Mouse a Cookie by Laura Numeroff, which uses cause and effect storytelling in a cyclical narrative structure. Books like Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak introduced emotional depth and abstract themes into children's storytelling. Dr. Seuss, including works like The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss, revolutionized early reading with rhythmic language, simplified vocabulary, and imaginative illustrations designed to improve literacy. Children's books became a critical tool in education systems worldwide, shaping early reading habits and cognitive development. Reading habits have shifted significantly over time. In earlier centuries, literacy was limited to elites. By the 19th century, industrialization and public education increased literacy rates across Europe and North America. Today, reading varies widely by region. On average, individuals read between 10 and 20 books per year, though this differs significantly. India reports some of the highest reading engagement, while digital consumption dominates in Western countries. Globally, billions of books are consumed annually across formats. The introduction of e-books and audiobooks has significantly altered reading behavior. Digital platforms allow instant access to libraries, while audiobooks enable passive consumption during commuting or daily activities. Audiobook usage has grown rapidly since the 2010s, particularly in the United States and Europe. E-books surged with devices like Kindle, allowing millions of titles to be stored and accessed instantly. Self-publishing platforms have further expanded the number of books available, removing traditional publishing barriers and increasing global participation in authorship. Books became the dominant form of entertainment and knowledge distribution for centuries because they were scalable, portable, and preservable. Before film, radio, and television, books were the primary medium for storytelling, education, religion, and political communication. Across cultures, books developed differently based on materials, technologies, and traditions. From Mesopotamian tablets to Egyptian scrolls, from Chinese woodblock prints to European printed novels, from American comics to Japanese manga, each system contributed to the global evolution of written media. Outro books developed independently across civilizations and evolved into a global system of knowledge, storytelling, and cultural expression. Their formats, distribution methods, and audiences have changed over time, but their role as a primary method of recording and transmitting information remains consistent across history.